Good morning. Let's start Module 5. The name of Module 5 is Software for Parallel Programming. Okay, it is an in this module we are going to study the repeated concepts from Module 1 to 4 and also some of the parallel programming concepts. So most of you know about parallel programming concepts as object oriented programming and module development environments like Android, which we are using in day-to-day life. In the module 5 we have three chapters: chapter 10, 11 and 12. First, chapter 10 is parallel models and parallel languages and compilers. Okay, so features of compilers you have studied in your compiler design subject. Languages and models we will study. So some of this some part from this you have already studied in your object oriented modeling and design subject. Okay, so kind of repeated concepts. So wherever or whichever concepts feel repeated, I will give some idea and I will cover actual concept from this module. Okay, so what do you mean by parallel programming models? So simple definition, it's a collection of each program abstracts and we will assemble them and we call one programming model. Here what will execute in parallel are the abstracts of each program. Okay, since there are many such abstracts of each program, okay, so those will try to execute in parallelly, so hence we call it as parallel programming models. And each model, it may be of different type. One may be related to input output, one may be related to data fetch, one may be related to data store, etc. So meaning is all models should execute parallelly and all modules we should collect from a different program and we should call them as abstracts. Okay, so one of example from the textbook is POSIX thread. You know the diagram in your operating system we used to draw like this. Okay, so there were three threads: thread 1, okay, so next thread 2 and thread 3, like this. We used to write corresponding resources for each thread, and those thread try to execute the complete the task and they try to execute parallelly. Okay, so that's what the concept. And for which system the programming model which are parallel are best suitable means where we find multiprocessors. So multiprocessors, see how to expand. Here you assume one processor, another processor and three processor, so you can map each thread to each processor. Okay, see now what happens, there are set of processors, that means multiprocessor. So one more is single instruction and multiple data stream. Such a systems also good or suitable for parallel programming models. Okay, so among the parallel programming models we have 5 different models. First one, shared variable model. Second one, message passing model, data parallel model, object oriented model, and last one, functional and logic model. In this video we will study one by one what each module stands for. So we will study one by one module. Okay, so let's start first model, shared variable model. So if I open up the diagram, conceptual diagram of this, we will easily analyze what will be shared variable. See here, this area is in the memory. This area is in the memory. Okay, so there are three processes, process A, B and C. They will share a same variable. They will share a same variable. Okay, and that variable is stored in common memory. Okay, so what they will do is they will access that variable in this direction. Access means fetch. They will calculate or continue with the executions, and they will update the result in this direction. That's why we have bidirectional communication or bidirectional transfer between each of the processor. Okay, sorry, each of the process with respect to memory. Here we are mentioning the word IPC, inter-process communication. Between processes, they are accessing common variable. Okay. Next, what are some salient features of this shared variable model? So processes are, we consider it as active resources, and memory devices, memory as well as input output devices, we consider it as passive resources. Okay, so here since this variable is stored in a memory, okay, so we are discussing now about passive resources. Okay, passive resources. So whichever a variable we stored in a memory, it will have its a particular location or an address, and that will be shared by many of the processors. And what each processor will do is common. It will first access the value or the variable value, then it will calculates or performs the calculation. Next it will updates the answer. So here the memory location where we stored a data, we call it as critical section. Okay, I repeat, here is a critical section. See this is going to be critical section where we have stored a data. Okay, fine. The next one is, okay, how each processor or two processors will communicate with each other. One is mutual exclusion. Mutual exclusion means among n processors, only one process will execute at a time, and once another process starts, compulsorily old process should stop, and this stop, start, pause, continue, all will take place by mutual understanding. Hence we call it as mutual exclusion. And also one more feature about a mutual exclusion is, if one event is taking place or one process is executing, another process should not execute. That is we call mutual exclusion. Okay, so the next one is no deadlock in waiting. So during if there is a waiting state, because of waiting there should not occur a deadlock. Okay, so when process will become waiting, see here there is a variable called A, there are two processes called P1 and P2. Okay, so one process is waiting, okay, and P2 is waiting for result of P1, and P1 will never get A value access, hence P1 cannot update a value. If P1 cannot update, P2 cannot also continue. So in such situation it is called as deadlock because of waiting. So it is a circular wait. Okay, so and variable model refers or works based upon this circular wait method also. Okay, so next one is non-preemption. Non-preemption means until the process completes, there should not occur any interrupt. If interrupt occurs, okay, if interrupt occurs, processes will not get completed. So if processes won't get completed, so they keep waiting or they keep interrupted. Okay, so continuous occurrence of interrupt. So till completion of all or main processes, there should not occur any interrupt. If interrupt occurs, so they keep interrupting the completion of a process, and thereby no process will, or no set of processes will complete. So they will not properly share the variable that will occur. So that should not mean, we should take care of that possibility. Next one is eventual entry. So based upon the priority or event, we have to allow a process to enter critical section. I told critical section means what? So critical section means the memory space where the variable is stored, which is going to be shared. This area is critical section. Okay, so all processes are not allowed to enter this area. They are allowed to enter based upon their event priority. Okay, so these are the features of shared variable memory. Okay, next, some of the other features which you already studied about that variable which is a commonly accessed, protected access. So you all know about in class we used to write public, protected, data members or data functions. Some of the functions we keep it as public, some as private. So making them private is a kind of providing a security for that data members or data variables or functions. Okay, so multi-programming means multiple programs will execute at a time through time sharing technique. So this we have studied in our second module. Please recall all the definitions we have studied. So whichever definitions we have not studied, I will try to describe them. Multiprocessing. So in a programming environment, we will implement a processor at multiple levels. Means one process we will divide into multiple processors and we will try to execute. So here what happens, same task given for many number of processors, so we can expect output in faster. So one condition we have to maintain is we should have proper cache coherence. That means related data copy we should provide for each processor. Okay, so the next one is participation and replication. So partition and replication. So try to divide a problem which is a complex into smaller and simple subparts, so that those subparts access a memory on time, efficiently, and they take execution, they complete their execution to generate the part result and club such a result to get a main result or final result. Same way how we do our day-to-day calculation. If we got some bunch of currencies, first what we will do, we will group them into 500 notes, 2000 notes, hundreds, 50s, like that. Next we will count each of them and we will have one temporary answer. So we will add all those sub answers and we will get total amount. Same way, divide a problem into subtask or small parts, make their memory access success, so that they will get a values and they will take a execution. If a particular part of a memory is busy or not possible to access by a particular processor, and then we have to give a copy of that value which that processor needed with another copy of same data, so that the processor can continue its execution. Okay, next one is scheduling and synchronization. So hope you studied this in your operating system. Process scheduling. So why we should have a scheduling process? Because resources are shared. If resources like memory, variable are shared, we should execute processes on time, otherwise deadlock will occur. And we should have synchronization among the processes. If we don't have a synchronization, that time then we will lose the efficiency of system execution. So for scheduling and synchronization, we have studied many of the algorithms like shortest job first come first serve jobs algorithm or scheduling, round robin, etc. These all are to use or to schedule processes and get them executed, even though the memory or the variable is shared. So let's go for, after this first model, shared variable, next we will go for message passing model. You have studied in the embedded system, please recall. So very simple message passing protocol we called. Two or more processors, when they share a resource or a variable in a critical memory, then they should communicate with each other through message passing technique. Here is a diagram, this second diagram. Okay, this second diagram is using message passing technique. What both process will do, process D and E, they keep sending a message and receiving a message through communication channel about, they keep sharing which variable they are going to use, for what time they are going to use. Say D is going to use a variable M for some amount of a time, it will send a message to process E. So what process E will do, it will never attempt to get the same variable M until D completes its execution. Same way vice versa from process E to D. That's why we have bidirectional arrow mark between D and E. So now two sub models or methods of message passing, one is synchronous and another one is asynchronous. Synchronous means the activity takes place with respect to some standard time signal. Okay, so when we have a time signal for sending a message and receiving a message, it will become synchronous. If there is a no standard time signal, then we will call it as asynchronous message passing technique. Okay, so synchronization will with respect to space is defined in some of the embedded systems. Okay, so when it is asynchronous message passing, generally priority is a very important parameter to decide which should get the variable first. Okay, means first access. Okay, so that is what with respect to second. Third model is data parallel model. So we have studied this in our first chapter, data parallelism and dependency diagram, etc. Please recall all the concepts from that discussion. So data parallelism means programs processes the data parallelly. So here we wrote in our first model, we wrote many of the instructions and we try to group them into two set like this, and we try to attain parallelism, so that total time taken we try to reduce. So please recall that Bernstein's parallelism condition or Bernstein's execution conditions, that concept I am telling. Okay, so data will be stored in a separate data sheet, and that is called as data set. That data set is used for processing the data parallelly. Okay, next one is compiler support. So compilers like a Java code transformation are built for parallel processing of the data. So if data processing is not supported by compiler, then we cannot implement it. So to execute data parallelly, we should have a compiler which supports data parallelism. So next one we have, which I am not discussing much here, just I have listed what are the points with respect to object oriented model. We will write class, which is a group of objects, class members like data members, and functions. Object, it is a real world entity to perform or carry out all operations. Create an object, delete of an object. Create a database, delete of a database. Overwrite and overload are two techniques of present in the object oriented models. There are so many other in our in this subject, only these features are covered, so I am taking this. So many other concepts which you have studied in your object oriented, please add them. Okay, so the next model is very simple, functional and logic model. So functional means, can we write one program into different functions? Generally what happens, we used to write one C program. If I write a C program, there will be one main program, main function. Okay, so if we don't want to execute all activities inside a main, we will write many number of user defined functions. Okay, we will write many number of user defined functions. So what is the purpose of writing or developing a user defined functions is, if a task or a subtask is executed very less amount of time or more number of a time, okay, that time instead of writing or including in the main, or if we include in the main, we used to write or type it every time. So to avoid that, we will write one UDF and call the UDF, get work done, and we will switch back to the main. So all the concepts which we have studied in our C programming, user defined functions, that is what functional. So if we are able to develop UDF in our program, so that is called as functional model. So same one, next logical programming. So all programs are logical, but small different meaning is macros. So generally UDF are written outside and after main, macros are written outside before main. So what is the difference between UDF and macro is, every time UDF, whenever we call a UDF, compiler should go to that area, execute and come back. But whereas in a macro, you studied in your system software or a compiler design, macro gets included in the main wherever they have called. Okay, thereby space will increase, but computer executes in continuous mode. So time taken to execute macro will be lesser than time taken to execute a function. Okay, so this is what related to first concept, parallel programming models, and there are 5 different models. Okay, so next we will go for second concept, parallel languages and compilers. So what are the language features which makes a language as a parallel? So it should be able to perform parallelization of instructions automatically, that means on its own. Okay, so it should identify instructions or a set of instructions which we can execute parallelly, and that is the responsibility of compiler. Semi-automated, by giving some input. Once we give our input values for a variable, after that, based upon the value supplied, if compiler is capable to identify instructions parallelism, then it is called as semi-automated. Interactive support. So that means whenever see what happens if you make a mistake or some syntax error in our C programming, when we are executing in a Turbo C, it will give us a semicolon missing in line number. So here what happens, user will easily identify the error and he will debug the error. So that is what interactive support. Okay, so that means compiler should also support help user to identify errors or to get the output. Scalability, can we enhance a program capacity or a processor capacity according to our requirement? There will be some limitations for a parallelism, but if the system is scalable, we can enhance the parallelism. Next one is computability. So that means capability of completing complex activities, that means complex task. If computer or a system is able to finish complex operations, it is treated as high computability. Portability, can we move the computer or a language from or a compiler from one platform to another platform? It is called as portability. Okay, next these all are theoretical concepts. Synchronization and communication features. Okay, see here next synchronization or communication. Okay, so these two we have studied in today's class, shared variable and message passing method. So here where two processes will send a message and receive a message. Okay, thereby they will decide about sharing of a variable. Another one is shared variable in memory. Okay, next one we have remote procedure call. See here, we will write a program in some part of a memory which is a main, and we will write subroutine in another part of the memory. So subroutine we call it as procedure. So this main will access which is not present in the present main area. Okay, it is somewhere else in the memory. From there we are accessing. That is called as remote procedure call. So next we have data flow languages. That means some of the languages like MIT, Android app development, where we will keep one model after another model. So and we will give input for first model, that is input side. As the data processed from one model to another model, continuously data will get a flow from one to another, and this is a kind of programming language. So MIT application you have used for Android development. Okay, so next one is control of parallelism. So we have studied this in our first chapter, please recall it. Take one problem, execute complete program as it is, that is coarse. Medium means divide into medium sized problems and execute, whereas fine grain means divide into small n number of subtasks. So what happens when we divide into subtask? So many processes we can execute parallelly, many subtasks we can execute parallelly, so that we can expect more parallelism whenever we divide a problem into fine grain size. Explicit and implicit we have studied in our second chapter. Explicit means we will use a hardware, extra hardware or a software to attain parallelism. Implicit means when we are writing a program, we will try to identify instructions which we can execute parallelly, and we will in the program itself we will try to develop parallelism. That is called implicit parallelism. Loop parallelism. So same loop with a different parameter passing, is it possible to execute them parallelly? So most of the time we will be success to get a execution of loop parallelly. So next one is task dependency. I mentioned among many tasks, if it is dependent, keep it in a waiting state. If it is independent, get them out of the independent section and try to execute parallelly with the main process. Okay, so coming for the next, optimizing compiler for parallelism. So what we have to do with respect to compiler so that we can get a parallelism? So there are different stages we have to remember. This flow graph you have studied in your compiler design. Please recall, it was in the I think module or unit 5 or 6. Okay, features of compiler, that was. Okay, so once we give a source code, it will identify and analyze flow of data. Okay, what are the results it will generate, whether the data is dependent, how the control, how we can reuse the same data. Instead of accessing, go to memory, fetch and access, is it possible to reuse? So if reuse is possible, so memory time will saved. So that is the conclusion by step 1, flow analysis. What is step 2? Program optimization. So what do you mean by program optimization? 1, actually irrelevant or non-effective instructions remove from the program. That is program optimization. How to remove? Execute them by pipelining or perform a vectorization. If we do vectorization, multiple instructions gets execute in small amount of time in different processes. There we achieve parallelism also. Okay, so next, once we get a optimized program, try to give for the next stage code generation which will execute parallelly. So stage is called as parallel code generation. What are the outcomes of this? Granularity. Granularity means taking a main task and dividing into small size, so grain size, that is called as granularity. If we attain granularity, we can select many from that small size and get works done in parallelism to get more degree of parallelism. Next one is code scheduling. Code scheduling is nothing but process scheduling. Okay, so what are the best outcomes of this optimizing compiler? Where they are suitable, they are allowed to execute in a superscalar processor environment. We can go for a scheduling. Okay, so they are best suitable where there is a shared memory also and distributed memory also. So in all the cases we will get best effect, best parallelism by the compilers which supports parallelism. So this is what I have listed here. Okay, so fine, thank you.